Hey guys, welcome back to an early morning edition of Sports with Mono and Mono. And as you can see, my partner is back in the saddle. Steve, it's great to have you back again.
Good morning, everybody.
Yep.
Welcome back to the show.
And it's going to be a great show for us today. It's the 28th day of 2023. It's a nice, cool, crisp day in New Jersey. And we're going to have a guest around 9:10 this morning. And we're very excited to have him. And I think you're gonna enjoy that as well. So before our guest joins us, just wanted to bring up the monologue. And Steve, I know you're going to say you can't let this go, and I do. This whole college football scene and how it's been transcended with this, the nil thing and the Deion Sanders going to Colorado and basically cleaning house. So he's got an open checkbook. And there's another Hall of Famer that we thought was going to take the head coaching job at Bethune-Cookman, right? Ed Reed. And I guess they don't have the kind of checkbook that Deion Sanders has. So that deal kind of fell through, right?
Not even close.
Right. So that whole deal collapsed. But it was just so funny because, Ed Reed is a Hall of Famer and looked like he wanted to take this program to the next level. But it is, again, all about, as Steve would say, the Benjamins. And so they couldn't come to a deal. So that went down the tubes. But and we're going to talk to one of our guests coming up about this whole situation with the transfer portal and just how it's transcending the game of college football. And it just, I hope Ed Reed gets a job because I like the guy a lot. And I think he can bring a lot to the table. But again, it's got to be the right situation. And it just didn't seem to work out. What'd you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Ed Reed is, with Ronnie Lott, considered the two best safeties, I think, ever to lace them up. I commend Ed Reed for wanting to jump back or get into coaching. Bethune-Cookman, historically black college, if I remember correctly, and the Ed Reed deal was in place. I think it was about a month or so.
Yep.
And listen, if you don't have the money, what can you do? You're not going to get top talent. Ed Reed deserves to be paid, obviously.
Yep.
And Ed Reed, if he wants to coach, he's Ed Reed.
You know what?
Who's to say Deion won't pluck him?
And you know what? There's another interesting fact I saw. Tyrone Wheatley actually was just hired as the Wayne State coach, right? So again, these ex-players, they bring a lot to the table, their experience and so forth. So I wish him all the best of luck as well.
Eddie George is probably in his third year, maybe fourth year. Eddie George is, went back to a small school, and so guys are giving back, which is a good thing.
You bet. And of course, our monologue was sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. And, we're going to have a little bit of a St. Joe's theme, Steve, coming on when our guest joins us. And we couldn't be happier to have him because this is, we talk about sports and we talk about the good guys in sports. And you and I have always been about character first and then talent second. And this kid fits all the bills. So he's going to be joining us just in a little bit, and of course, it's championship weekend. And we're going to certainly dive into the two games that are taking place tomorrow. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But you got some good matchups here. And, your Cowboys got knocked out last week. What's your thoughts on how they played that game?
Well, deservedly got knocked out. The defense played great, running down on the San Francisco 49ers. However,
hey, we just got a shout out.
Hi, Miriam. You know what? That is our loyal listener from DC. Yep. And we posted a picture of Luna last week, and we hope Miriam is doing very well this week.
Yep, Miriam, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. It all boils down to Dak Prescott, folks. And once again, he didn't show up for the big game. I got him for one more year, guaranteed money. And then after that, if he doesn't bring us to the promised land next year, I don't see Dak lasting long in Dallas, to be honest. And I don't know where, who, when we're getting a quarterback, but it's not Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman. I don't have one of those guys in the wings.
Yeah, and I've always told you, I've always been on the fence with Dak. I just think he's an excellent talent. I just don't know if Mike McCarthy is the right guy. And based on Mike McCarthy, right? So you knew heads were going to roll. I honestly thought that Jerry Jones was going to fire Mike McCarthy on Monday morning, but instead Mike McCarthy, I don't know what he has on Jerry Jones, but he survives and 6 of his assistants get let go.
Listen, a lot of people think Mike McCarthy is a buffoon coach. I don't. I mean, Mike McCarthy's had back-to-back 12-win seasons. Okay, he's won the Super Bowl. I get it, but you have Sean Payton out there, and folks, if you do a side-by-side comparison of the resumes, they're not too far off.
I
He's
know.
got one title. You know, Favre for the Packers for McCarthy and Breeze for Peyton in New Orleans and so on and so forth. But Mike McCarthy, in my opinion, did nothing to lose his job. And I'm not giving Sean Payton or the New Orleans Saints 2 number ones or whatever it's going to be and $25 million a year. I'm just not doing it.
I really thought that was going to happen too.
Right, but the Cowboys really needed to implode. But the Cowboys are talented, and Dak Prescott really needs to step up. I'm very disappointed in him, giving him as much rope as I possibly can. But next year, I'm telling you, he doesn't come out and step up and be a top 5, top 6 quarterback.
Yep.
And bye-bye.
Well, the thing is, the week before he played, just a great game. So, he's capable of doing this. It's just the consistency that I think is lacking in Dallas. And, I don't completely hang it on him. Losing Tony Pollard in that game was a big loss for them. That
I
changed the
hang
whole
it on
dynamic.
him. You can't throw these 2 interceptions early in the game when you're driving. You're on the road at San Francisco. You know it's going to be a low-scoring game. And he continually throws these silly interceptions in big spots too. And granted he beat Tampa, but everybody's looking at Tom Brady now like he's 49 years old, which he practically is for all intents and purposes.
He is.
But Dallas has a lot of talent.
They do.
And we'll see what happens. But Dan Quinn's coming back, which I think is a good thing for the defense. And a player like Micah Parsons, I'll give him credit too. He essentially called out Dak Prescott after the game.
Oh, he more than called him out.
But I don't have a problem with that. I mean, you played linebacker, I played quarterback, right? And let's face it, there's 2 sides of the ball, right? The defensive guys, you guys are family. Offense, we're family. We share the same locker room. We're teammates, and that never changes. But in the heat of the battle, fingers get pointed. Right, and that's something we could talk to Luke about too. But at the end of the day, we're all teammates.
Yep.
But don't tell me the defense wasn't. Jesus Christ, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So. Well, listen. So that season's over for Dallas. We're down to the Final 4,
and they're the 4 best teams.
They are the 4 best teams. This is kind of unusual that you see, right? The 4 teams that we expected to be there. My preseason pick was Kansas City, and now we got to deal with the Patrick Mahomes, injury. But like we have told you time and time again, this guy is a warrior, so don't dismiss this. But Steve, for some reason, I just feel that Joe Burrow, and you were all on board with him. I was uncertain about him, but he has really developed into one of the top flight quarterbacks in this league. And, I just am excited. The one thing why don't we while we wait for our guests to join us, let's talk about the games, right? In San Francisco, Philadelphia, you're right. The season that Jalen Hurts has had, it looks like he's pretty healthy. He seems focused. Their team is loaded. And I thought, I mistakenly thought that the Giants could stand up to a team like that, but obviously they can't, right? So
we have somebody, Houston. Houston, Luke has landed.
And let's do an introduction. Luke, as soon as you can hear us, let us know. And our producer Rob behind the curtain has the pictures we're going to put up. So yes, our guest is going to be Luke Wypler, who is dear to our hearts, and we've been talking about him for quite a while. There's the man right
Hey,
now.
how are you guys?
How are you, buddy?
Good. Thanks
Hi,
for having
Luke.
me on again.
Thanks for joining the show. And we were just mentioning you were our first guest a couple years back when you were a standout left tackle at St. Joe's. So
Yeah, no, it came full circle now.
it sure has. It's really great to have you on. And
No,
I
thank you
just
for
want to
having me.
let's bring up something right now. It's been kind of a whirlwind for you in the past 4 years. You've gone from playing from one of the powerhouse teams in high school football, and then you migrated over to Ohio State. That's Luke on the right, young Luke, as we would call him now,
Yeah, it's
right?
really young. Wow.
Yeah.
Those guys, yeah.
Those are your buddies, right?
So in 4 years, you've gone from the high school standout team to Ohio State, and in 3 months, you're going to be joining the ranks of the best football players in the world. How do you reconcile all this?
I don't think it's hit me yet, honestly. I think part of me kind of still feels like it's a little bit of a fever dream, and it's super exciting at the same time. And I think my whole life, I kind of always knew that I would always have this opportunity, and now it's just about capitalizing on it. So for me, it's just staying prepared and staying ready for when I get my opportunity, wherever it may be.
That's great. And Luke, I wanted to ask you because, when you came out of St. Joe's, you were a highly recruited, football player. And how did it get down to Ohio State? How did you know Ohio State was the place for Luke Wypler?
Yeah, I
Wasn't
think
it
at
between
the
Stanford and
time.
Ohio State for you?
Say
Basically,
that again.
wasn't it between like Stanford and Ohio State for you?
Correct, it was. And for me, actually, Stanford was the place I thought I was going to go. And it was kind of last minute. I decided on Ohio State. And for me, something that coming from St. Joe's, the high school I played at, the winning culture that we had and the things that were embedded on us about winning and the pressures of that is something I really enjoyed. And for me, when I was going to find a college, I wanted something that was very similar to that. And for me, Ohio State was the most. I mean, the winning culture that at the time Urban Meyer created there and the demand to win. It wasn't like, oh, it's all right, maybe we'll win this one. It was you woke up every morning, you put your feet on the ground on Saturday morning, and you knew you were winning the game. There wasn't even a doubt in your mind.
Yeah.
And that's something for me that I craved and I love. So for me, it was an easy pick to attend Ohio State.
Well, it certainly worked out for you. And,
Yeah, to say the least.
yeah. But listen, I wanted to ask really quick about, the transition from high school. You were a left tackle for most of your career, and making that transition to being the center, which is basically right, the general of the offensive line. And
Correct.
how did you make that transition? And
Yeah, for me, I mean, it was definitely a transition. I think anytime you go from switching any position, any sport, it takes a little to get used to. Like everybody says, practice makes perfect. So at the end of the day, you had your bumps and bruises that you had to endure during it, and it was it was difficult the first year or so, and then like anything, after enough times, enough reps of doing something, you get better at it. And it wasn't until probably my second year, my second spring ball, that it kind of came full circle, and I started understanding all the nuances of it, and I was able to start playing faster. So there was a lot less thinking, and snapping got more natural, and all those little things that most people don't think about when you're playing center unless you've done it before. And so for me, it was just understanding all those little things. And like you said, also being the commander out there, you have to make sure that all five guys, the running back and quarterback, know exactly what you're seeing, and you all have to be on the same page. So again, it's almost like a telepathic relationship that you have to have with those guys, especially the guys up front. You have to always be speaking the same language the whole time.
that's awesome.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, obviously at Ohio State, you played in the top venues, and national championship contender and all that. Was there a particular place or venue or a team that you were just like this? I mean, this is so cool.
Yeah, I kind of had that like moment this past season playing in the college football playoff. I think that's something at least growing up since it became a thing when I was a teenager, watching like the CFP playoffs, and it was kind of always a dream. Like you're always sometimes watching it like New Year's night before the ball drops, hanging out with your buddies, and walking out to the field, seeing like all the logos, seeing it on the TV screen at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It was a beautiful stadium, and it was kind of like one of those wow, like this is kind of really happening moments.
Yeah.
And, that was really exciting, and the game obviously didn't go our way, but our guys fought to the very last whistle. So at the end of the day,
And then I want to ask you a question real quick. The Michigan-Ohio State rivalry, right? Jim and I are historians with football, and the 10-year war with Schembechler, Woody Hayes, and to come into that and inherit that, rivalry. Can you talk about the ups and downs with that?
yeah, I mean that game
Really must be. You guys have to hate each other.
Yeah, you live, breathe, and die that game every year. I mean, that game's in your head 365. You see it every morning. You hear it every day. It's something that's preached about, and obviously, I had a rough 2 years in the game and wasn't able to pull out a win, but it was something that you lived every single moment of every single day. I don't think there's a day that went by that you didn't think about it, didn't see it, and didn't feel it. And that to me still is one of the greatest rivalries I've ever seen in sports.
Oh, absolutely.
And Luke, when you talk about that rivalry, did this ever cross your mind to say, I can't leave this university until I have a Michigan win under my belt?
Yeah, I mean, it crossed my mind. I wish I probably could have made it happen, but it's definitely crossed my mind before, and it's tough not being able to have that notch on my belt, Luke.
That's great.
All right, though.
So listen, Luke, you played with, you were the center. Describe for us the relationship you had with C.J. Stroud, who's a Heisman finalist, and how'd that relationship develop? And I'm assuming it's going to be a lifelong friendship for you.
Yeah, no, I think that relationship with CJ is something he actually described it one time in an interview as he's the president, I'm the vice president, and I love that. I think that's a great way to describe it, especially on the field. He kind of has final say with everything, and I kind of just make my thoughts and what I think we should do, and he has final saves. Obviously, he can see more of the field than I can from where he's standing at. It's all about perspective there. So that's kind of our relationship, I like to say. And for us, I mean, when we came in as freshmen, we're from two polar opposite sides of the country. He's from the West Coast in California. I'm from the East Coast, right outside New York City. So we butted heads early, and like any good relationship, you need to butt heads a little bit to kind of make growth with each other. And I think this past year we really came together, and it was so much easier to communicate on the field. Our relationship built off the field, and it made things a lot smoother for both of us.
That's awesome. Hey Luke, talk to us a little bit about this transition and the decision that you were ready to move to that next level, and what's it been like, and what's it going to be like leading up to the draft in April?
Yeah, for me, leading up to the decision, really, there wasn't a bad decision. I mean, either I went back to school for another year, or I went to the NFL. And I think if you're looking at the grand scheme of life and things, those are two pretty good decisions to be in the middle of.
Right.
So even though it was a tough decision to make, it just came down to whether I felt ready enough and that I could compete at the highest level, and I did. So I made my decision to leave school and start preparing for the NFL draft. And right now I'm down in Florida. Doing combine training and learning how to sprint, run, how to perfect certain drills. I mean, it's kind of like just have to be able to go into Indy and at the combine and show my athleticism and the things that I think I can do really well. So right now I train twice a day and do field work, board work, all that kind of things at night. And that's just my daily schedule. And I love it. I get to focus on the thing I love in football. And I mean, this is just the dreams coming true now.
And you can't do this alone. I would like to ask you, who have been the most influential people in your life to help guide you through this transition from college football player on the grandest of stages to moving to that next level and being one of the select few to be able to make it in the NFL.
Yeah, I think there's been. I mean, my mom always says it took a village, and for me, there's a ton of people I could sit here and list for hours and hours. And but my parents, especially my mom and my dad, were huge in this whole transition and this decision making process. Um, Backing me with whatever decisions I wanted to make, and believing in me full heartedly. And the other coaches, a lot of my teammates at Ohio State believing in me, and no matter what, were behind me and had my back. So I think there's been a bunch of people that really have been able to kind of make this decision process a lot easier for me, because I know they love me no matter what.
And they absolutely do. And listen, we're going to let our fans know that your father and I and my brother Steve here, and there's a picture of your dad. Can you see
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
You know?
that's actually my one call contact saver for him. Yeah, yeah, right there on the
That's
field.
that's Thanksgiving Day, 1980.
Against
And
Paramus
listen,
Catholic,
I
right?
guess the old saying is the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. But your father was one of the best athletes and football players Steve and I ever played with, and
Wow,
we're very excited for you and for your dad.
thank you,
You see
thank
it
you
through
guys.
that
Yeah,
ball, it's perfect. You see the
yeah,
extension of your father. That
yeah.
was the
You set him up
coldest
for that
game.
picture.
That was the coldest game we ever played at St. Joe's. And in that play in particular, it was like 50-yard pass. He got tackled on well, he caught it, fell down on the 4, but the scoreboard said 0-0. We won that game 7-6. Yeah,
Wow.
the rivalry of Joe's and all
Yeah,
that.
all those teams.
What a
It's a
fond
battle of the
memory. And,
beach.
I want to echo what Jim said. Your
Yeah,
father was just a complete warrior. And we know, the fruit doesn't fall far from the tree. We can't be
thank you
happier
guys.
for
That's a
you.
huge compliment.
What are you tipping in now? So what are you you're working out and
Um,
everything? Is there a certain weight you want to go in at?
yeah, I mean, be a little lighter, help me run a little faster. I'm about 302 right now, 303, plus or minus 2 pounds, given what I'm eating or drinking that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm in that kind of 300, 305 range. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of where I want to be, over 300, but a little under 305.
Now, have you thought about, get drafted? But now I'm a Cowboy fan for the record. But have you thought about snapping Aaron Rodgers in New York and Rodgers going to
Oh,
your ex-teammate Garrett
yeah,
Wilson,
listen, I grew up a
bringing a Super
lifelong
Bowl
Jets
back to
fan.
New York?
I grew up a lifelong Jets fan, so that would really be a full circle moment. I named my dog actually growing up Sanchez after 2 AFC Championship games. I thought we had it, and so yeah, that would be a really full circle moment. And whoever the quarterback is there, it would be really exciting.
Hey, well, I'm a little selfish. I want you to wear a blue helmet, not a green helmet.
Either way,
I want a star on your helmet and a silver helmet.
that's funny.
But it'll be
That's funny.
one of the teams is going to select you, man.
Yeah, I
So
know, it's
cool.
exciting. I think that's like the hardest part of this whole process. The first time in my life I never had a team, so right now it's kind of you're in limbo and
Yeah.
waiting and seeing what's going to happen.
Well, that's great. And listen, let's get some personal. Let our audience know what does Luke Wypler do? What kind of hobbies do you like? And what do you
Yeah.
do when you're not playing football?
For me, I love to golf. It's kind of a hobby I picked up out in Ohio. A lot of flat ground, a lot of area to play, and for me, that's something I really picked up in college. I've gotten pretty good. I'm a bogey golfer and try to hit the ball straight and just play where it is. So for me, golf's one of my big hobbies. I love fishing. Photography is another one, and I have a dog, and he's probably my main priority outside of football, and he's awesome. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's great. Hey, Luke, before you go, I know you're a pretty busy guy. Give us your picks for this weekend. You got the Eagles and the Niners, and you got the Bengals and the Chiefs.
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think there's gonna be some great games this weekend. I think the 49ers might be able to upset and pull it off against Philadelphia. I think they should have too many weapons on the outside when you look at Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, McCaffrey. Just too many. You can't cover them all. It's impossible. So it's hard to kind of take one of those great X players right out of the game that easily. And then I think the Chiefs have a lot of kind of, I guess, they're 3-0 against Joe Burrow or 0-3 against Joe Burrow, and I
We
know how
are.
that feeling is, and it's tough to sleep at night. I'm pretty sure they had a lot of juice this week going into this game. So, depending on how healthy Patrick Mahomes is, I think the Chiefs are going to pull it off.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I'm going with the Bengals and the Eagles, by the way. So
There
that's
we
just,
go. Listen, agree to disagree.
oh, and listen, I wanted to make sure that you knew. Steve was bringing it up before, the picture of your father making that catch.
Yeah.
He threw him the ball.
He threw the ball. He was a quarterback. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, listen, Luke, we really appreciate you joining us, and
Yeah, no
hopefully we
problem.
can, once the draft comes around and you get settled in and know where you're going, we can't wait to.
We're your biggest fans, buddy.
Thank
We're
you,
rooting
guys.
for
I
you. We're going to be
appreciate it.
following you, and we know things are going to work out great for you. And we couldn't be prouder of you. We're
Thank
all
you.
Via Fidelis, St. Joe's. You know
Dear
that.
Fidelis.
And good luck, buddy. And we
Thank
can't
you, guys. Thank you for having me. I
you.
really appreciate it.
You're welcome, pal.
We'll catch up to you soon, Luke. Be
Great.
good.
Have a great weekend, guys.
You too.
Be good.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, buddy.
There's man.
It's a man.
How about that, Steve? What a nice young kid this
Right.
Luke Wypler is. And
He's smart. When I say he's smart, his grades are off the charts.
he's an academic All-American too.
Academic All-American. And, if Luke's not getting his degree this year, he's the type of kid that'll have it five minutes once he settles in. So that's the time of the offseason.
Absolutely.
What a great kid, great story. And again, the picture we showed in 1980 of St. Joe's, you can see the stark difference, right, of the picture of Luke at St. Joe's 30, 40 years ago, whatever the case may be. I'm proud, and I know you are, and Robert is, of being a building block for the program, right? So in 1980, a long time ago, but without 1980 and the guys before us in the school opened in 1962, if I remember correctly. So the guys before us and the guys after and the current guy, that's what it's all about. And couldn't be prouder of Luke Wypler.
Yep. And listen, I hope he reaches out because, the history of St. Joe's and Devin McCourty, Super Bowl winner with the Patriots and so forth. And it really is exciting for him. And we wish Robert and his mother, all the best in this period of time for them. It's a big step for his son.
Absolutely.
So Steve, let's jump right back into the games and let's do our picks. Like I mentioned, I'm going with the Philadelphia Eagles. It pains me to do that because I'm certainly not a Philadelphia Eagle fan, but my biggest fear for San Francisco, and I think the weak link could be this big stage for Brock Purdy. And he's got a lot of talent around him, but this is, he's going up against, one of the better teams in the league. And, if he stands up and makes this happen, it would be quite a feather in his cap,
Yeah, I have to go with the Eagles. The Eagles are home. Okay. They seem to be healthy. San Francisco flying across the country, Brock Purdy, right? Listen, Dallas, like I said earlier in the show, Dallas defense played well, right? Brock Purdy, the speed of the Cowboys defense was a factor. And the Eagles are damn good. Okay. I have to go with the Eagles. I have to go with Jalen Hurts, his ability, to run the ball and throw the ball. And I'm going with the Eagles, even though San Francisco, I wouldn't be surprised.
No,
right?
Nor would I.
Wouldn't be surprised, but we have to pick somebody. I have to take the Eagles. And I'm not an Eagle fan in any stretch of the imagination, but we have to be objective on the show.
Okay. And then the AFC game, and again, I always give you kudos for this Joe Burrow. He's really matured into that player you expected him to be. And, he's 3-0 against Patrick Mahomes. And when we always reference the Chiefs, we reference Patrick Mahomes because he is the focal point of that team. And, we don't know how the injury is going to play out, but when we talk about warriors, this guy is a warrior. So he's going to be on that field one way or the other. The other thing is, Travis Kelce is suffering from, a potential back issue. So he may not be the factor that they're going to need to beat Cincinnati. I just view it as Cincinnati has been rolling on all cylinders lately, and I like their defense a lot, and they're gonna make Patrick Mahomes run around, and that's gonna be the key. But I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
And I have to as well. Now, the idiot that I am, you idiot, right? I took Buffalo last week, right? Why? You know? Well, I took them because they were home. I thought, I had faith in Josh Allen. I had faith that, Buffalo has slowly been, ahead of the curve a little bit, over Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's in the Super Bowl, whatever. I can't bet against Joe Burrow anymore. I just can't. And the reason I'm going with Burrow on the road, last year he did the same thing. He came into Cincinnati, won. Now Mahomes is hobbled too. He's got this high ankle sprain that could be a factor. And if Travis Kelce, is affected by his back, that's a problem for Kansas City. Cincinnati's playing great. You saw him just manhandle the Buffalo Bills.
They did.
And they were down 3 offensive linemen, starters, but the 3 that stepped in there manhandled the Buffalo Bills. And I like this Zach Wilson as a head coach. Zach Taylor, excuse me. I like Cincinnati's chances, and I'm going to go with Joe Burrow and the Bengals to beat the Chiefs.
Yeah, it's going to be colder in Kansas City than it is in Philadelphia.
It's going to be like 10 degrees, maybe even colder. So
yep.
So my picks are Eagles and Bengals.
Well, we have nothing to just argue about, because those are my picks too.
Right.
But we're objective, and you guys know that we don't play favorites. Maybe somebody could say, "Well, you took the Giants over the Eagles." Well, you know what? I think the Giants are trending in the right direction. They're just not there yet. But they're making, finally have a foundation with Brian Daboll, and they got some big decisions to make. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, I think we're in consensus here, Steve and I, with Philadelphia and Cincinnati.
And then the other news, in the NFL was Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, it's
Aaron
strange.
Rodgers, right? So Nathaniel Hackett's hired by the New York Jets. And Salah and the coaching staff interviewed 6, 7 guys, I think, maybe up to 8. So what's the speculation? Now, Nathaniel Hackett
We know.
was a complete disaster as a head coach in Denver. Okay. But when you look at his offensive coordinator resume, it's pretty damn good.
It is.
Aaron Rodgers won 2 MVPs under Nathaniel Hackett's tutelage. Blake Bortles and Jacksonville, he was the offensive coordinator down there. They made the playoffs.
Yeah.
This is fueling that speculation for the Jets that Aaron Rodgers is a big possibility to come to New York, and I'm buying into it. I'm actually buying into this. I think it's going to happen. I think the Jets have to put all their chips at the table. They have talent. They have to fine-tune the roster a little bit more, I think, on the offensive line, things like that. But if Aaron Rodgers comes in and Joe Willie Namath is willing to give him number 12, right? Anything to get him here is going to make $60 million, but for 2 years, we've talked about it ad nauseum how Aaron Rodgers is, I'm disliking him more and more.
Me too.
But he's superhuman quarterback. He is. Is he the best? No, he's not Burrow and Mahomes now. I would rate Aaron Rodgers probably 3 or 4 maybe now. But I'm buying into this. I think it's going to happen. I think Rodgers leaves Green Bay. I think Green Bay's sick of him. That it's time for them to move on. And I'm buying into it.
I actually have to agree with you, because, a month ago, I didn't buy into it. I didn't see it as even a possibility. But now I actually see it, because he's such an egomaniac, Aaron Rodgers, that, this would be the equivalent of Mark Messier coming to the Rangers and leading them to a championship, right?
That's a good point. The drought. The Rangers, right? 54 years. We're almost at 27 back with the Rangers, right? It's funny. I was talking to somebody yesterday about it. But the New York Jets, folks, 1969. And there's not a lot of people around anymore, folks, that are diehard Jet fans that are probably in their 70s now, the late 60s, whatever. The window's closing, and the disappointment they've had for so many years, right?
Yeah.
This is a window. They have to push it in. Woody Johnson will pay anything. And this is the right move because they can't win with a Zach Wilson. Mike White's not the answer. Mike White was a nice story, right? Mike White could be the backup. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they need a professional quarterback. And Robert Sala's job is on the line as well. If he wants to keep his job, he better get himself a quarterback.
Well, my feelings on Robert Saleh. I just don't feel he has what it takes to be a head coach. Yeah, he was a good defensive coordinator, but when I watch him on the sideline, he's completely oblivious to any decision making that goes on.
I disagree. And the reason I say that is the way his press conference, I was thoroughly impressed with him when they benched Zach Wilson. Like, I kind of bought into him. I thought his answers were perfect. I thought he did the right thing, right? He talked it over with the staff, right? But it was the right thing to do. Zach Wilson was a complete disaster. The Jets had this is prior to them losing 7 in a row. He was trying to stop the bleeding. I think they had lost 2 in a row, or maybe 3 at that point. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think Robert Saleh is learning on the job, and I think I think he's the guy. I do. He had to fire Mike LaFleur. Somebody's had a roll. That was a Woody Johnson call, right? He had to make that call. He's out. So Robert Saleh, the rope is, he's next. Okay, you can't be firing your subordinates, and the leader on the sideline survives.
Yep.
So this is huge. It's a big offseason for the Jets. Huge offseason.
It is,
and it would be great if they drafted a Luke Wypler in the third round or whatever they got. And that's what Luke's a Jet.
Yeah,
right? That's awesome.
And look at the connection Luke has with Garrett Wilson and
Right.
his former teammates at Ohio State, and it's great.
And every team is loaded with Ohio State,
Yeah.
and Michigan, Alabama, and Georgia players.
Yeah.
That type of thing.
And when we talk about this, it's funny. We've been talking a lot about St. Joe's today, having Luke on the show. Yesterday, James Franklin and Kirby Smart were at St. Joe's evaluating some talent. And again, we've talked about this before, the level of talent that comes through New Jersey and the St. Joe's. And I'm sure he made a trip, Kirby, to Bergen Catholic and to Don Bosco as well.
No question.
But this
Paul,
is,
too.
but these guys don't jump on an airplane and go to a high school without, knowing that there's some talent there that could help their team win.
Well, they're jumping on nice airplanes. I can tell you that. They're not flying into JFK. They're flying into Teterboro.
Yeah, in and out.
Dom Perignon and lobster and steak. That's for damn sure.
But I wanted to give a shout out to our friend Andrew Carolyn, who kind of clued us in on that. He's close with the football program, and again, I had an unfortunate, Andrew's brother Thomas passed away last week, and I forgot to mention that last week, but I wanted to make sure that we brought that up this week.
Yeah, and I absolutely want to give my condolences to the Carolyn family. Jimmy, brother too. Jim was my class. Andy, obviously, you guys go way back.
You do.
I was very sad to hear the news of the passing of Tom.
Yep.
And just wanted to give my condolences, guys.
Yep. But see, there's a tennis tournament going on right now, and again, Arena Sabalenka wins the women's side, and we got a great matchup in the finals with Novak Djokovic and Tsitsipas in the final. And I started when I realized this, like, it seems like Novak Djokovic has been 35 years old for the past 10 years. It's amazing to me that this guy is still formidable, right? Of the big three, it looks like, the end of the road for both Federer and for Nadal, but this guy keeps going on. 35? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is almost 30 already, and it seems like he's only been in the league 5 years. It's amazing.
No, I felt the same way about Roger Federer. Roger Federer, forever. It's the same thing.
No.
It's like Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods comes on the scene at what, 20 or whatever he was, and he's been here forever. There's certain players like that, and then there's certain players where you blink in the eye and
The career is over.
over.
You're right.
Yeah.
But this is going to be a good finals match. It really is. This kid Tsitsipas is one of what we talked about, the new guard, the young guns in the sport. And if Novak is going to win this, he's got to beat a real formidable foe in the finals.
No, this is a great final.
Yep.
Tsitsipas deserves to be there. But I got to go with the Joker here. This guy, he's going to have more career Grand Slams than anybody, and he'll probably have. I think, I don't know, maybe 5 more, right?
I can't even. It's got to dry
He'll
up.
He'll have 5 more than Nadal.
Okay.
That's what.
Yep, but that's Mike Garvey down in Naples would send us a comment if we didn't bring up the Australian Open, which is one of the Grand Slam events in the sport. And you got some of the best players in the world there, and Joker is going for that Grand Slam title again. Amazing,
Right.
So Steve,
But it was just real quick. It was hard to see Rafael Nadal.
it was.
This guy, all he does, he's a warrior. And again, Nadal tried to play, and so that again, there's certain athletes that we admire, and you don't question them. You don't question their effort, their dedication, their championship pedigree.
Yep.
Rafael Nadal is one of those guys. He just couldn't go anymore,
Yep.
And God, I root for a guy like that. So.
Me too. So Steve, let's move on to some random points of interest this week, and of course, it's always sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, and just a couple of quick things. This whole situation, and we were just talking with Luke about Michigan football and this whole Jim Harbaugh, and it just seems like that program. I thought for sure he was going to take the next available NFL job that he could get, because things are starting to unravel there. There's a lot of controversy there. I don't know. I was absolutely certain he was going to take an NFL job, but he comes out and says he's not.
The little bit I know about what's going on in Michigan, and Harbaugh is really thumbing his nose at the NCAA and the infractions and all this. I think he took 1 or 2 recruits out to lunch. That's it.
It's more to it than
I'm
that.
telling you, from what I'm gathering, and I mean whatever. Go get a hot dog or a hamburger or something. We're talking what? $30, something like that. And today, and again, we're in this world of NIL and all the money that's being thrown around, and until anything comes to light. Now, I don't know what's related with the firing of Matt Weiss, who was the offensive coordinator.
Well, there was some sort of an issue with
Some
either
computer
crime theft or something.
whatever that is. We don't know yet. I'm not sure if that's tied to anything. But Harbaugh, again, we're big critics of this guy, but I think Harbaugh is
so.
I think Harbaugh is an ethical guy until I'm proven otherwise. So I don't think there's much there.
Okay. So Steve, you and I, and this is something you and I have a very let's say tough critique of. So Major League Baseball, Scott Rowland was the only one elected to the Hall of Fame. We looked at his career stats, right? 317 home runs, 281 lifetime batting average, but he only drove in 100 runs. I think 4 times, possibly 5. Absolute Gold Glove third baseman.
7 times.
If we went down the list and I said Scott Rowland, you'd say yes or no?
Well, without doing the research, and again, our criteria, yes or no, I would say no. If I had to answer that question in less than 5 seconds, I would say no.
Yeah.
However, when you do the research on Scott Rowland and third baseman in particular,
You're right about that.
he's number 9. He's the number 9 best third baseman of all time. When you stack up his numbers, he just is.
Yeah.
Right? Mike Schmidt, is he Mike Schmidt? No.
No.
No. Is he Brooks Robinson? No. Right. But Eddie Matthews, guys like that, there's less than 10. And if you're the ninth best third baseman, played 17 years, World Series champion with the Cardinals, good guy, team leader.
Absolutely.
It was actually nice, the video of him finding out he made the Hall of Fame. His parents are still alive. I don't know if you saw this, but there was a nice home video of him and his parents, waiting to congratulate him.
I did see it.
I mean, that's good stuff. Right? Yeah, that's what we want to see. But is he a Hall of Famer? Yes, he is.
But you know what? When I think about this and the guys that were up for election, right? And I think I've even brought this up to you. When a guy like Jeff Kent, right? Jeff Kent, I looked at Jeff Kent's numbers. He's got a better lifetime average. He's a 291 lifetime. He's got more home runs. He drove in 100 runs like 8 times. I mean, I don't know why he doesn't get any love at all.
Well, I know why. It's because of the writers. It's because of the writers, right? And if the writers don't like you because you were a jerk during your playing days.
Yeah, but was Jeff Kent known as a jerk to the media?
I think he was. I think he had problems with the media. Yeah. And I'm not saying same thing with an Albert Bell, right? I mean, when you think of Albert Bell, right? Albert Bell had a stretch there where 5 years this guy was a beast,
feared hitter. Yeah.
However, when I think of Albert Bell, the first thing I'm thinking of is what a jerk. So when you piss off writers that hold a grudge, not saying it's the be all end all, but if you, like a Jeff Kent, have been on the ballot for 10 years and you pissed off enough writers, this is how they get elected. It may come back and haunt you. Same thing with Curt Schilling, right? Curt Schilling is not the most well-liked guy out there. And I don't particularly like Curt Schilling, but Curt Schilling basically told the writers, 3-4 years ago, don't vote for me, whatever.
Take me off the ballot.
Yeah, well, they're not. Another guy like Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez, is he a Hall of Fame ball player?
His numbers would say yes.
His numbers would say yes, but Manny Ramirez is a drug cheat, and he's been caught, and he's not.
Well, it was very similar because Alex Rodriguez didn't get any support at all, and we know the reason.
And that's the debate about Manny Ramirez. When Manny Ramirez, how many times we see him come up to plate the Yankee Red Sox game or whatever, right? This guy, all he did was drive in RBIs. But if he wasn't taking something, would he have done it? It's like a Rafael Palmeiro situation, right? Is Palmeiro going to hit 500, whatever the hell he hit, and with these numbers that are crazy?
Yeah,
Palmeiro's never good. So, Carlos Beltran, does he deserve to get in? I don't think so. He's borderline, but he only got 45% of the vote. And why? Because he got caught up in the cheating scandal and things like
100%. Yep.
So there's factors, folks. So that's my point. It's unfortunately, it's not based on field performance. We've talked about the Hall of Fame being, you got Ty Cobb in there, who was, considered the biggest racist probably ever of any baseball player.
Yeah.
You got, and what can I tell you?
I got you.
So Scott Rowland was the only guy to get elected, and when you look at it, Fred McGriff we talked about a couple weeks ago, he deserves to get in. So it's going to be a light field.
But when I see a snub like Jeff Kent, if Scott Rowland gets in, Jeff Kent, based on the numbers, belongs in. But you're probably right. This is payback for whatever reason by the sports writers, and hopefully, that changes. All the old guard guys, die off, and you get some young blood in there that appreciate the talent that a Jeff Kent got in. If Scott Rowland got in, that's my point.
Right. And then one more quick point. Right. So when what do we talk about? Derek Jeter. We talked about the 100% battle, right? Mariano Rivera, right? And you had that's one sports writer who didn't vote. I'm just saying.
Silly, yeah.
So silly.
Right.
But that's an exclamation point. That one guy
and it's very
that may
real.
held a grudge, or I'm not voting for him because this domino effect of his reasoning.
Yeah.
I don't know what to be honest with you, folks, and Jim, I don't know if the writers deserve to select people for the Hall of Fame.
I agree.
Who gave him that right? You know, and we're talking probably a lot of guys that never hit 100-mile-an-hour fastball and never fielded a ball. And I'm not knocking the fact that their knowledge of the game and purity. I'm not knocking.
I got you.
Right? But I think that's got to be.
Yep. And just one more random point, Steve, I wanted to bring up because we cover the gamut. We are sports with Mono and Mono. And just got to give a shout out to Michaela Schifrin, who passes Lindsey Vaughn as probably the Wayne Gretzky of women's skiing.
Correct.
And that's a big milestone for her. You know, I mean, the blemish on her career record is going to be she didn't do very well in Beijing, didn't even medal. But, you know, you got to give her credit. She's a force and probably will go down as the best women's skier of all time next to Lindsey Vaughn. You know? Yeah. Wanted to give that shout out.
That's a good one.
Yep. So Steve,
one other thing. Did I read that somebody paid $2.6 million to attend a Messi versus Ronaldo game or something like that? Did you see this story?
No, I didn't.
VIP seat or like something crazy like that. So you talk about memorabilia and all that. You know, somebody's paying $7 million for a card or the Kobe Bryant shirt we talked about last week.
Right.
At least you could keep that. You know, we're talking $2.6 million for 3 hours.
Well, for somebody that's obviously got billions, it doesn't matter.
I said that last week. If you got billions of dollars,
yep.
It doesn't mean anything. But I thought that was.
And listen, folks, we'd love to hear your thoughts on the Hall of Fame that we just talked about, and send us an email, of course, at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com. Steve, we touched on some. We mentioned Andy Carolyn's family, and we send our condolences to the Carolyns. But we did a notable passing. We forgot to bring up Sal Bando last week, and it didn't go unnoticed by some of our listeners. And but Sal Bando was 78 years old, member of a 3-time World Series winning Oakland A's team. Serviceable career. I think you mentioned his lifetime average was 254. And when we looked at his statistics, that was a very productive 254 baseball player.
You better believe it. Like Sal Bando was like considered basically the captain of the Oakland A's team.
I think he was.
He probably was. He had a great career. Like Sal Bando came in second in 1972 behind Richie Allen, Dick Allen, for the AL MVP.
Yep.
I found that to be, wow. He came in third and fourth a couple times as well.
And had a good career as a general manager with the Milwaukee Brewers, by the way.
He was good defensively, drove in over 1,000 runs. Yep. Top of my head, I think he had, I want to say 294 home runs.
Yep.
But yeah, Sal Bando was considered a real good guy, and passed away at 78 years old. And we want to absolutely acknowledge Sal Bando.
And Steve, there was another big loss, and somebody that I think you and I both admired his knowledge of the game. But Billy Packer was literally the best analyst college basketball's ever had. He was 82 years old, and he called 34 Final Four games, and he was just well respected across the college basketball landscape, and that's a big loss for college basketball.
Yeah, Billy Packer. We remember all 34.
We do,
right? Like it was yesterday. The Bird Magic '79 final. He was right there, part of that. It's still the highest rated NCAA game of all time. Billy Packer went to Wake Forest. Billy Packer was all ACC 3 times, led Wake Forest to the Final Four. They lost probably in the first round or the semifinal game, what have you. Billy Packer was like, he grew up outside Philadelphia. He grew up in Pennsylvania. And Billy Packer was a hell of a basketball player, but a knowledgeable guy.
Yep.
Right? So we love Billy Packer.
Oh, he was
so the national title game, forget it.
That was the guy. It was either with Al McGuire and Dick Enberg and all those, but he was at the top of his profession, and that's
for a long time.
Yep.
And he was well liked.
He was
and well respected.
He was a no nonsense guy. He was was all about the art of the game of basketball.
You better believe it. But I'm sad to hear that. Billy Packer was a good guy.
Yep.
He'll be missed.
And just from the world of Hollywood, I thought it noticed Lance Kerwin, who, who we remember, when we
We're
were
the only two that remember.
I know. James at 15, right?
Totally.
And the bedwetting.
James at 15, yeah.
But he also starred in this movie called The Loneliest Runner with Michael Landon about, this great runner, but he had a bedwetting problem. It was pretty funny. But he was only 62 years old. But we bring stuff like that up sometimes.
Totally. James at 15.
Yep.
What was that? 4 episodes where he got canned?
I think it was the movie first, and then the series was James at 16. So anyway, but listen, it's championship weekend, and again, I'd like to thank Luke for joining us on the show, and we wish him all the best in his journey to the NFL. And enjoy the games, folks. And we'd love to hear from you, so send us an email. And again, as always, we thank you for your support.
All right.
We'll catch up to you, Rob. Thanks for pulling off an early episode for the show this week, and good luck for your St. Mary's today. And we'll catch up to everybody next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Always closes with that, it seems,
I like it.
right?